Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe, and I'm a weapon of mass instruction. Today is Friday, September 21st, 2012, approximately 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I've been out of the loop for the last couple of days, so I don't know what's going on in the news or worldwide or whatever. I do know that they were spraying the shit out of us yesterday, and so it is completely overcast today. Looking quite unnatural in my opinion, but anyway. So partly I'm just letting you all know that I'm still here, still alive, still kicking. And in the interest of not rambling for a whole 25 minutes or so, I'm going to kick off a topic today. I had a really nifty title for it too before I forgot what I was going to call it. I'll probably come up with something fairly witty fairly soon. But I want to talk about defenses while driving. So the main thing is, stuff you can do while you're on the road to prevent yourself from being target of terrorism, target of any sort of crime, abduction, being unlawfully surveilled, anything like that. So I'm going to try to keep it to that topic if you're interested in hearing this. Just some things I picked up over time and some common sense stuff. But, the likelihood of anything bad happening to you while you're driving is fairly slim. Out of the ordinary stuff I'm talking about, I'm not talking about your regular humdrum accidents or whatever. I'm talking about, like, what I just said, abductions, target of terrorism, all that stuff. Because you know what they say, the best offense is good defense. So, a lot of it is actually how to be on the offense while you're a defensive driver. Because the last thing you want to do is draw extra attention to yourself by anybody, unless of course that's exactly what you want to do. Usually you're mutually exclusive. Like if you're trying to freaking drop somebody off your tail or whatever, you might not necessarily want the police to get involved, or you might. So everybody's situation is going to be different. But a couple things I picked up along the way. I usually try to vary my speed on the road if I'm feeling like somebody might be following me. So variable speed. If somebody is definitely trying to follow you, depending on how good they are at it, then they're going to try to keep up, which means you're going to be playing an accordion game with them. They're going to be rushing up to meet you and then backing off, and then rushing up and then backing off. Of course, situational awareness is the very first thing that you should keep in mind. Everybody's got 3 mirrors on their car at the very least. So you got your 2 side view and your rear view mirror, not to mention your peripheral vision. So you got to keep an eye on all that. So you're looking at stuff like if there's a car that's been following you down the road for a good half an hour and there's plenty of turnoffs and plenty of other routes that they could be taking, why are they taking your route? Obviously that's not so much on the highway as like back roads. Also, by varying your speed, if there's something crazy going on, like somebody planted a roadside bomb, there's several different methods for them to detonate the bomb. And one of the most popular is by remote control. So they're going to be sitting off in the woods somewhere with a pair of binoculars waiting for just the right car to come by or something like that. So by varying your speed, you're going to make it so that their range estimation is off. They got to basically plan for how much time it's going to take for the signal to reach from whatever remote control they're using, like a cell phone or walkie-talkie, to get to their bomb site. They're going to have to calculate, you know, how much time it's going to take for all the inner workings to actually take place, how long it's going to take for whatever fuse they have set to go off, or primer, I should say, and then actually ignite the explosives. So, you know, if they wait too long, then by the time they push the button, you'll be past the bomb site, and your tail end might take a little bit of damage, but, you know, since you're going forward, there's a good chance it won't. So, that varying your speed a little bit does make it harder for somebody who's planning on committing an act of terrorism to do so. That's not the only kind of terrorism out there, of course. That's just the one that we hear about most often. If their detonation system is something like a sensor, like a heat sensor or pressure, or I wouldn't say heat, what's it called? Infrared. The garage door openers, that's a classic example. They, in Iraq, one of the things they did was they would set it up so that the IR sensor was shooting its little beam of energy across the road, and the way it was hooked up was, you know, it would be inactive for as long as they needed it to be, but when the road was clear and the only thing coming up was a coalition convoy or patrol, they would activate that IR beam, and that would also prime the explosives, or what the hell's the word I'm thinking of? It would basically set everything up so that once the beam is cut by any sort of object, then it would actually trigger the explosion. And that's why you see, like, nowadays, a lot of the Humvees and stuff will have what looks like an arm sticking straight out and a bar going across, because it acts a little bit as a cow catcher. Not even across, but straight up and down, sorry. It can fold across. It acts a little bit like a cow catcher, so if there's a tripwire going across the road, it'll trip that before the Humvee actually gets there. And also, if there's an IR sensor, it'll go off a little bit sooner, too. They have pressure sensors. That's another method. You'll see, like, while you're driving, there's a lot of creases in the road. You know, and this is something, obviously, you're not really likely to see here. But it is possible, especially as time goes on and shit hits the fan. A pressure sensor basically has two pieces of metal insulated from each other, but wherever you think the tires are going to be, there's going to be a gap in the insulation, so that if enough pressure hits that metal, it's going to connect, and that electricity is going to cross, and it'll, of course, set off the explosives if they're set up the right way. There's no defense against that. It's gonna, you know, it's gonna go off as soon as your tires cross it, if that's the case. All right, but enough about the terrorism aspect of it. You're not really likely to see that so much as just surveillance, somebody trailing you to mark a pattern, or the possibility of an abduction. That would probably be more likely here in the States if something like that goes down. So you got varying your speed, changing your route. Try to avoid patterns. Patterns and complacency are what kill. Another little thing I saw in Iraq, there was a platoon of soldiers that they went out in their trucks. They were patrolling the outer area of our AO, or area of operations. But they got complacent about it. And when I was sitting on post at the checkpoint on the outskirts of the city, I would notice that every day around noon, they would go out the same gate. They would go about 800 meters down the road. There's an abandoned building where I was, and they would have lunch at this abandoned building where it was shady, and, you know, they could just chill out for a minute. And then they would go and kick their patrol. And so what ended up happening there was one day, you know, some fucking terrorist or some insurgent, whatever your terminology is. I wouldn't even call that an act of terrorism, because they were a military convoy. it was an active war, so the insurgent or combatant decided to set up an IED inside of that building. And from what I could gather on the radio, it was detonated via tripwire. So they go into the building, and the first guy in, of course, he's not checking his surroundings because they got used to it and they got set into this pattern, and they were being complacent and not aware of their surroundings. Got his freaking leg blown up, and he would have bled out because he kept on kicking and screaming and not letting the medic get to him to actually apply a tourniquet. And finally what it came down to was one of the corpsmen attached to my company was listening to this on the radio, and he basically said, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to take a truck. If you guys want to send out other guys to help me out, awesome, but I'm going to go out there, I'm going to help this guy, I'm going to save his fucking life. So he did that, and he basically took no guff from the guy. He applied the tourniquet like he was supposed to. The guy's leg ended up being saved, but just barely. But the moral of that story is don't set a pattern, because that pattern could get you hurt or killed or abducted or whatever. So if you're going to work, if there's 3 different routes that you could take to get there, plan accordingly and alternate the routes. And don't just set a pattern of route A, B, C, because again, they're going to mark that, and they're going to, if there's somebody watching you and you're a target, then they're going to use that against you. You got to keep it random. So A, B, A, C, C, A, B, C, whatever strikes your fancy that given day. And don't even let traffic dictate which route you're going to take, because again, that sets a pattern, that sets a precedent. They're going to use that against you. All right. So, obviously if you decide on route A and traffic is bad on that given day, you're probably going to have to leave a little early. But that's also taken away from that pattern, If you leave at different times each day and you arrive home at different times each day. Unfortunately, there's some places where you're stuck with that pattern because, let's say you got to be at work at 8 o'clock every morning. You're going to be at work at 8 o'clock or a little bit before. But again, you can get there earlier, and then sometimes you can get there right on time, So there is stuff that you can do to get rid of that pattern there. But the location, unfortunately, is set. Alright, so avoid patterns, take different routes. If you've got multiple vehicles, take different vehicles. Don't, if you've got an SUV and a sedan and a motorcycle, take different vehicles on different days. Do the unexpected. And if you're planning ahead and you don't write these plans down, that's good too, because if somehow they can get to you, whatever you're writing down, that's no good for you either. So different vehicles. When it comes to the vehicle, I recommend doing at least a rudimentary check of that vehicle to see, like before you actually get into it, to see if maybe somebody left a little box or something underneath the wheel or something like that. If there's anything out of the ordinary there, well, there you go. Might be a better idea to take a different vehicle or carpool with somebody that day until somebody can check it out for you. Okay, so let's say you're driving now and you see a car behind you that has been there for the last 10 minutes and you've been taking a different route than you normally do. Maybe you've seen that car before, or whatever the case may be. For whatever reason, you feel like you might be followed. Well, again, not setting a pattern. Again, changing up your speed. If you watch them, and if you rip roar down the road for a half a mile, and you see them racing to catch up, and then all of a sudden they're right on your ass again, they might be tailing you. If they're right on your ass, it's not a good thing for them to be doing in terms of surveillance, because it's a pretty clear tip-off that something's not right. Highway. You know, you could choose to take the highway. There's multiple lanes there. Depending on the traffic, you might be able to lose them on the highway. You have also a little bit more leeway, depending on your area, to do other stuff as well. Like, you know, again, going really fast. A lot of times on the highway, the flow of traffic is 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. So if you follow the flow of traffic and he's keeping up and he's weaving in and out of traffic so he can keep a line of sight to you, you know, there you go. But if you maybe slow down and go into the slow lane and just follow the speed limit or 5 over, even though everybody else is going faster than you, that could also tell you, are you being followed or not? Because if he's following you, he's probably going to slow down as well. Or he might decide to keep on going so as not to give away his position, give away what he's doing. If there's multiple people working together to follow you, then there could be another car in traffic way behind you ready to pick up the trail when he leaves off. Unexpectedly taking an off-ramp is another thing you could do. So, you know, maybe signal at the last possible second and then hop on off and hit the brakes so you can take the ramp safely. Or maybe signal and get into the off-ramp lane and then cut back into the highway, again, right before you actually hit that off-ramp. Different things that you could do there that are, again, unexpected. If you do decide to take the off-ramp, go right into the backwoods, you know? Especially if you know that area. If you know that area well, go ahead and take those backwood roads and see if that car is following you through those backwood roads. You know, because with those, a lot of the times, again, there's a lot of different turnoffs. A lot of people are going to take a whole bunch of different routes in there. It's like a fucking maze. So if they're right on your route and they're staying behind you, even if it's at a safe distance, that could, again, indicate that you're being followed for whatever reason. Now, it's up to you what you're going to do next. If you do decide that somebody is definitely following you, you might want to call the cops. You know, that's one option. But then again, if somebody's following you from a state or federal agency, which, you know, there are a couple of giveaway signs. If they're not using completely undercover cars, you're usually going to see something that indicates that they're working for the government, like uniform type suits or something like that. You might not want to call because, of course, they might have your name on a list somewhere where if you phone the cops and they come, they might just pick you up for whatever as well. So let's say you know you're being followed. You haven't been able to lose them. See if you can call a friend. You know, if you got a friend who knows a little bit about defense, tell them where you are and which way you're headed, he or she might be able to come and basically stay with you, because if somebody plans on abducting you or something like that, they're going to be less likely to do so if there's other people involved. The more people around you, the less likely it is that they'll be successful in whatever it is that they're going to do. And that's all pretty much common sense stuff. A couple more little tidbits. If you're on a road with a lot of traffic lights, you know, try to pay attention to how long the lights stay green and how long they stay red and how long they stay yellow. Because if you're really lucky, you go through a traffic light. I like to call it the orange light express. But if you go through a traffic light on a yellow, if they're willing to follow the law, they're going to stop for the red. You know? So if they rush through that traffic light to stay with you, that's another indicator. You know, but of course you got to time it just right. If that's the case, you don't want to run a red light by accident and then get stopped by the cops. That would sure suck. What else? What else? Staying in a public place. Alright. It's not a guarantee that if you're out in public, other people around you are going to want to help, especially if you're in like the city or something like that. Everybody like just keeps to themselves. But if you're out here in the countryside, where it's a little bit less of that hive mentality and a little bit more of a unified community mentality, then you're more likely to get help from strangers if you need it. So if you stay out in public, you go to like Walmart, there's security cameras everywhere. You know, so freaking in there at least you're relatively safe. They're gonna have to wait until either a later date or you leave the building. But if you stay with a group of people, then again you're less likely to be a target. All right. There's a jet going by. Sounds like a jet, which I think is funny because it's a completely overcast day. I wonder if they're laying more trails. I think that's all I got for you today, for the moment at least. I pretty much went over everything I know about driving tactics. If you do get into an altercation, you know, while you're in your car, well, again, that's up to you what you're going to do there. Calling the cops might not be a bad idea if you're in the process of driving, if you haven't stopped anywhere. And then if you're lucky, they'll be able to flag down whoever it is and stop them, and, you know. And it really all comes down to that basics and using common sense. Make sure to keep your seatbelt on. If they're not too worried about dinging up their car and they really want to stop you and they really want to get you, they might do something like a pit maneuver, which is basically when they bring their car up so their front bumper is even with your rear bumper, and then they just ease it over so they knock into your back side. That kills your traction, and then you actually slide off the road. And that, if something like that happens, remember to turn the wheel with the slide. So if your car is turning to the left, keep that wheel turned to the left. If you turn it to the right, you're going to end up fishtailing and freaking losing even more control than you already did. But if you keep it to the left, you're going to be able to stay with the spin and slow it down. And if you wind up facing the wrong way, well, so be it. At that point, you just got pit maneuvered, and it's basically fight or flight time. And since you're in your car, you still have the means of flight. So there you go. I think that's pretty much it. That's really most of what I know. If they go and attack you while you're driving, and so you know that they are doing something that they shouldn't be doing, something illegal, and it is a clear threat to your life, well, at that point, if you've got a firearm with you, you can use it. I don't recommend using your firearm while driving. It's not like in the movies. In all reality, it's very difficult to hit a moving target while you're moving. It takes a lot of skill to do that accurately. And chances are good you're not going to have a whole buttload of ammo to play with in the first place. On top of all that, all those missed shots are going to go somewhere. So it would really suck to be in a situation where you're fighting for your life, but you end up killing some innocent bystander and you get charged. So again, that's like the last thing you want to do, is actually bring that to play. Now, if you're at a traffic light and you got no choice but to stop for that light, and you've got a firearm with you, you know, keep in mind that if you're stopped, if he approaches your car, if it's not green and you got nowhere to go, then you're well within your rights to defend yourself. So one thing I've done in the past is, when I felt like somebody was following me, I would actually unholster my pistol and keep it in my lap, basically ready to go, in my hand, so that, you know, I've got control over it. And that way, when I make a stop, when I'm supposed to, if they get out of their car, I could be ready to defend. That actually happened to me one time. A guy freaking, I don't know what his problem was, but I was getting on 80 from work on my way to my ex's house, We were living together at the time. I got on the highway. I merged just like everybody else does. I was up to speed. I was doing my own thing. And there was a guy fucking riding my ass. So I was like, well, what the fuck? I was a bit more of an aggressive driver at the time. I ended up brake checking him. That might have been what set him off. I brake checked him, and then I started going faster. Because nobody likes getting your ass ridden on the highway. Especially. And he ended up staying with me. And I think, if I recall correctly, I topped out at like 85 miles an hour at one point going down the highway in and out of fairly heavy traffic. And at one point I was pretty sure I lost him. I took my exit, but sure enough, there he is, right fucking behind me on the exit. And I was lucky because the exit was 2 lanes and then it'll narrow down to 1 lane. I was able to get ahead of him a little bit before we hit the stoplight. So he was like 3 cars back. We're at the stoplight. He got out of his car. He was actually on his way up to me. I was at the head of the line at that point. I didn't even wait for it to turn green. I just went. I just went on that red light because it was clear and he was out of his car on his way to my car. And I had the ability to get the fuck out of there. So I did. But the whole time, you know, I was at that light. My pistol was ready. You know, it was in my car. And on me. And, you know, I think I made the right choice there. But if there was another car in front of me, he would have been at my car to do whatever the fuck he was going to do. So there you have it. That's all I got for y'all today. I'm going to try to get back into the news and everything. And helicopter. Really low flying. Looking like one of those MASH type helicopters. The bubble face and the looks more like a mosquito than, or a dragonfly like the old style helicopters. That's weird. You don't see that too often. He's banking around behind the Walmart. Coming back towards the left. I'm going to leave this rolling until I'm sure that the helicopter is gone. But that's all I got for you today. Alright, y'all stay safe now. Peace. Alright, I think he's gone.